Welcome to another Quantum Conversation. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. Hello, beautiful hearts. We are so pleased to be with you again in another episode of our Quantum Conversation Summit series. This is Developing Psionics. And my guest today is an intuitive healer and a coach who is here to assist us in sensing and clearing psychic energy. Egan Sanders is a beautiful teacher. He's been on New Earth One Network before, and you may have been in one of his workshops or even had a personal session with him. We're live on Zoom. Hi, Egan. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me again. 3 years and going strong on the faculty of New Earth One.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so we are going to take questions from our audience because this is a great chance for anyone who wants to join us on Zoom to come on and ask you questions.
Okay.
But we're also interested in really being able to sense the sea of psychic energies around us. I'm willing to say that we all sense it and pick up on it, but we may not be aware of what's going on. So Egan, please lead us through a little sensation first as we get started here.
Okay. Yeah, because we can talk about psychic energy, but it's an experience. It's not something always intellectual, although our
Right.
culture tends to be, breaking things down into ideas and concepts with the mind. So I'm just going to invite everybody who's listening, whether you're live here right now or in the future, if you listen to the re-recording or the recording, to just close your eyes for a moment. And the key with psychic ability or sensing psychic energy is really just awareness. Some people are born with more psychic awareness or feeling or ability than others, but everybody can develop it. It's a part of our soul. So I'm just going to ask everybody again to close your eyes, and we're going to do something called referencing and monitoring. Referencing and monitoring is the key way that psychic people are able to sense, interpret, receive, process psychic information. And the idea is that, like a radio, let's say you have a radio and it's off, you know that that's the starting position. But as soon as you turn it on and you turn into a radio station, you begin to hear music or news or something else. Now you're getting new information. So your consciousness is like a radio. And what we do is if you make a reference point, you note how you feel, and then you interact with somebody else or just sense the energy of an object or another person, you can then gauge what's changed, how you were feeling in this moment from your reference point, and then later on monitoring it, what changed. And that gives you the information you need. So with our eyes closed, let's all go back to this morning, whatever time zone that you're in, going back to this morning and remembering when you woke up this morning, how you felt. Just go back on your memory to this morning and just imagine you're waking up and try to just mentally describe to yourself what you were feeling when you woke up. Were you relaxed? Were you anxious? Were you neutral? Were you looking forward to the day? Just go back to that time. It's almost like as if you were describing it to another person. Well, when I woke up, I kind of felt this or I felt that. And then imagine from that point of waking up in the morning, I want you to think of the first contact that you had with another person. Now, this may have been from somebody that you live with or work with. It may even been by picking up your cell phone and pulling up a website or looking on a computer, a PC. Maybe there's a website that you look at every morning when you wake up or check your messages. And notice if there was a change in your emotions from the point that you woke up to that first contact with somebody else. Try to mentally describe what that change would have felt like. Well, when I woke up, I felt such and such and such, and then I looked at my cell phone or looked at this or talked to this person. And afterwards, I felt what? Let's now move forward in time to just before we started this meeting. See if you can just gauge what happened just a few minutes ago before we started the recording. What were you feeling at that time? And comparing it again to this morning when you woke up or when you made the first contact, the two previous reference points, did you feel the same? Did you feel different? Noting how you felt right before the meeting, and now just take a reading of how you feel in this moment. What's changed since before the meeting, right before the meeting, to right now in this moment? Referencing and monitoring, making a reference point and then monitoring how your emotions, how your thoughts change. Okay, everybody just open your eyes and come back to the room. We have a question here from Susan. I'm just going to read it out loud if that's okay. I
Yes,
read
please
cards for
do.
myself, and this morning, after a long meditation, the cards told me I was pushing too hard and going down the wrong path. I don't understand. Was I meditating to heal and ask Source to help me let go? What am I doing wrong? Okay, well, that question has different layers and levels to it. What I would say, Susan, as we go through this experience today with each other, and we clear some energy and we do some other things, um, I would invite you to ask yourself if towards the end of this session, do you simply feel more relaxed and more at peace? Sometimes when we feel like we're going down the wrong path, or we're told we're going down the wrong path, or we're confused, we can become agitated. And if we become agitated, we can begin to tune into all the other people on the planet who are agitated, which further amplifies our agitation. So hopefully in our engagement today, you're going to see that you can change those energies. That's really what we're working with today. Okay. So when I did that exercise, it was very interesting because I woke up in a certain state, and then when I went through those different stations, those different time periods, I could see the difference. And that's really what we want to do with sensing psychic energy and then changing it, because if we notice that, oh, I went on my iPhone and saw a stressful website and I didn't feel so good, you have a choice. You can either say, well, I'm just going to accept this and kind of take on that burden, or I can clear it. I can change it. I can do something with it. And that's really an aspect of when we're working with the psychic energy, sensing it, and then what do I do with it? Sometimes if you feel something good, you want to hold on to it. You don't want to clear it. You want to amplify it. Okay. So let's engage in a conversation. So I didn't, what would you like to do, Lauren? How would you, did you have questions or what's the format of this event? I don't know what I'm doing.
I first want to share. I do have a couple questions because just
Okay.
last night, I'm going to use this myself as an example.
Okay.
But I wanted to say, with that exercise that you led us through to begin,
Okay.
very powerful. This is what we are being reminded to do always, in all
Mhm.
ways, because that is our sensing of our energy.
Mm.
So thank you for this because what I noticed was, wow, it's very interesting. And so we've been talking about this, like if we wake up early in the wee hours of the morning and we don't feel really good, it's important to ask, who's this? Who is here? And if it's not of our frequency where we want to be, then I'm going to have you talk about that because we can
Mm.
send it away and we can say, no, you got to go, right? And that could freak people out. But it's really important to know how we felt. So we'll talk about this first part in a moment, but I wanted to say, when I woke up, it was interesting. There was one feeling, one sensation, but then someone, the first contact that I had, really lifted me up. You're right. So it's like, wow, it lifted me up. Just
Mm.
one person lifted me up. So what are we to do with one person who lifts us up? That's a good sign, right? That's a good sign.
It
Or
can't.
maybe not. I don't know. We give our power away to someone who lifts us up, but I get excited when I see um, a person, right? I get excited. And so then that's interesting. That's interesting. And then, of course, it comes to this show. This show, even through the pandemic, has always kept me going. And we're going on 20 years now for this
Mm.
show. I
Mm.
know. Amazing, right?
Wow.
And it lifts me up, this sort of conversation. So I'm going to say that you help raise my frequency. Everybody watching and joining us, I can sense even those who listen to the recording. This sort of a conversation lifts me up. So that's my reaction to what we sensed. But what do you have to say about that? Because if we wake up and we're kind of feeling, then that's interesting. So there's three parts there. What happens when you wake up and you really are feeling anxious or weird? Then there is something going on there with the energy. Are there things that go bump in the night that are coming into our bedroom that we need to be aware of?
Well, let's talk about the idea of psychic weather.
Yes.
So we just went through a holiday.
Oh,
And
yes.
so when you go through Thanksgiving, so usually what happens with a holiday is, okay, so Thanksgiving was on a Thursday. So Monday was like a kind of a regular day. And then Tuesday, many people who are listening might have just kind of felt like lackadaisical or a little bit off. And what's happening is that people are traveling and suddenly all the people usually at work and doing certain things, they're pulling out, they're doing other things.
Right.
And so you begin to feel right before the holiday, it's like the usual structure's falling apart. Very usually similar to a Sunday. Sundays
Yes.
are an odd day because on Saturday people are like, "Yay, I don't have to go to work or school," and like, "Yay!" And then
Yeah.
Sunday's like, "All right, well, I did all the fun stuff on Saturday, and I got to go back to school or work tomorrow, and what am I going to do with myself now?" And so there's no, unless you go to church or something, usually it's kind of a very free form day, and people don't know what to do with themselves. And so the energy is sometimes a little bit strange on a Sunday, or can be. So there's psychic weather. So when we think of psychic weather, there are really I consider three elements of this, and these interact with each other. And so the three elements are the ego, the echo, and the impersonal energies. So the ego is your mind. And we're going to use the example of when you're waking up in the morning. Let's say something was stressing you out the night before. And you wake up and you're like, okay, it's a fresh new day. And all of a sudden, that problem that was you're dealing with yesterday now crops up, and your mind begins to worry about it or strategize or things like that. So that's the ego mind that's always chattering. So that sometimes can feel like a psychic energy, like getting beat up, or when it's quiet, if you're in a state of flow or relaxation, that voice gets quieter. So the mind is one aspect. Second thing that affects our psychic awareness and just our life in general is the echo, which is physical reality. We call it the echo because what you put out in consciousness is what you experience in your life. So the echo is what we see in the world. So right now I'm in Florida. I'm looking out my window. It's in 50 to 60 degrees, but it's sunny out. It's beautiful. We just had a cold front in the United States. So in a lot of areas, they just got swamped with snow. So they're looking out their windows and going, ah, it's snow. I like snowmen. I like playing in the snow, but certain places I can't go to. Or maybe I can't go to school or work, or, you're snowed in. You can't go out and do certain things. So that's an example of the outer echo, or if you see things that depress you or scare you. You go into social media and you're like, oh, I'm going to read the news today. It's a great day. And then everything's going to hell because you're reading all the news and things aren't looking so good because the media is about scaring people. That's how they get people to pay attention. It's like, oh, well, this is happening in this country and the politics and the flu. And so
Yes,
then
yes.
your mind, and what happens with that is you're seeing it in your mind
Mm-hmm.
and in your physical experience. And then you're tuning into all the other people who are worrying. So you piggyback on their emotions. If something good happens, they invent something or something beautiful happens. Like years ago, there was a famous soccer player, Pele. He's a very famous soccer player. And one day in one of his games, he did this like amazing kick where he scored a goal in the soccer game, like somersaulting backwards. He did something that was totally crazy. And everybody in the audience, like was, screaming and, crying, and they were like so amazed. But that went all over the world. So for a little moment, that little, like it uplifted humanity because I saw him do something that transcended limitations. So you can feel that. Or if you have a painful event like 9/11, the planes went into the towers. Even if you weren't aware of it, you could kind of feel that collective psychic energy.
Mm-hmm.
So the ego, the echo, what we see, what we hear about. The third thing is the invisible world. And this is what affects many, many people. The impersonal energies are um, the astral plane. They're the thoughts of other people. Let's say you have a difficult relationship with somebody or a relationship that has conflict in it. Every time you think of that person, you're tuning into what they think about you. And if they don't like you, it ain't going to feel so good. Collectively, there are things called glamours. These are in the astral plane. So fear is a glamour. Celebrity, fame is a glamour. Suffering is a glamour. So let's say you're suffering, something painful happened, and you feel suffering. You can actually tune into that frequency that's in the astral plane, and that gets amplified. But also, you could tune into unconditional love when people pray. In the religion of Islam, they pray, I believe, 5 times a day. They take a break, they lay out a carpet or whatever their thing is, and they pray. And in that way, they're tuning into a higher consciousness. They're tuning into perhaps the love of Allah, something higher than the human experience. So you can uplift your mind. That's why people, they say, well, I want to go into nature, right? I want to go into, because they're in nature and they're surrounded by something beautiful. And that uplifts their consciousness because they're focusing on the beautiful nature. Whereas if you walk through a city street and it's grimy, I used to live in New York City, it's become a bit oppressive. And you can tune into that energy and into all the other people. So when we talk about our feelings, it's a complex formula of what's in your consciousness, what you're focusing on, what you're seeing in the reality, what your ego mind is telling you, and what you're picking up on an invisible psychic level. So it's a lot to be aware of. The trick is to simply notice that and then do something with that information. So what I want to do now is I actually want to do an exercise. This is something that was given to me many, many years ago. It's a meditation. It's very, very simple. I'm not going to explain too much about it, but we're simply going to do this. And I've done this in some of my classes. And this is, let's say, one way to clear your energy. So let's just sort of do something right now. So everybody, I'm going to invite everybody to close their eyes. And right now, we're going to add a little bit of an element to your monitoring. Just sense how you feel in this moment. But I want you to sense it on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 means you feel absolutely blissful. 10 means you feel awful. So just note, allow a number to come into your mind. How does my energy feel in this moment? Is it a 10? Is it a 7? Is it a 5? It could be a 1, but just allow a number to come into your mind. Again, 10 being not so great, 1 being fantastic. Monitor yourself, your energy, how you feel, and just note that number down. Just make a mental note of what you're feeling. Okay. So this meditation is called Undefining Yourself. With our eyes closed, imagine that you're sitting in a theater. It's like a movie theater and you're looking at the screen. And on the screen, first flashes a visual representation of your name, the letters of your name spelled out. It could be just your first name, it could be your first and your last name, whatever you're commonly called. And imagine now that as you see your name flashing on the screen, it begins to dissolve, as if you're just letting go of the idea of your name, of what you've been called all your life. As if the letters just dissolve, letting go of the name, the identity. Next on the screen flashes your biological age, how many years you've walked on this planet. We ascribe many meanings to our age, all sorts of identifications with the age. But now imagine that for just the time being, you're letting go of that number. Imagine it dissolving. Numbers are dissolving, and you become, in one sense, ageless, in addition to being nameless. I want you to think of your history. Imagine on the screen that you're seeing your life unfold before you, from when you were born, growing up into a child, into a young adult, into your age right now. It's just like a montage of different scenes of you at different ages, all the different ages and all the stories, the people you knew, jobs you had, relationships you had, experiences, all in this life. And imagine now that those begin to dissolve. You're just letting go of them for the time being. They're all dissolving as if you had no history. What if you had no history, no story? No name, no age, no history? Any concerns you have right now? Challenges in your life, issues? Perhaps you'll see a visual representation, a symbol or a scene unfolding about something you have to work on or resolve or fix, issues. Maybe one, maybe several. They're just flashing all over the screen. And imagine now that these begin to dissolve. Those issues are no longer issues, concerns. We can also see the future, things that you projected out in the future, things you want to achieve, you want to manifest, concerns about the future. Anything that you're projecting beyond this moment, maybe for the immediate future, far in the future, just imagine that those are being represented on the screen and those begin to dissolve as if you have no future. Notice how this feels to be nameless, ageless, no past, no history, no concerns, no projections into the future. Who are you really without these things, these definitions? What's left? If you let go of all these things, you undefine yourself. All that's really left is the physical body. So on the screen, see your physical body. And imagine now as if it was an animated image and a big eraser comes onto the screen and begins to erase the outer boundary of your form. Just like as if you had written something in pencil and now you were erasing it. And just for a moment, we're going to let go of the physical form, allowing everything to be erased, arms, legs, letting go of the physical form. Sensing this, feeling this, what is left if there's no name and no age and no history and no issues and no future and no body? You may find yourself seeing or sensing or feeling a light, a beautiful white light. You might think of it as a spark or your soul, your beingness, the life force. But underneath all of these definitions and ideas is an awareness, a pure awareness, a beingness. And that pure awareness is bliss, is love. It can't be affected by the ego or the echo or the impersonal energies. It's just pure awareness. It's always whole, it's always complete, it's always perfect. It's love. It's infinite endless light. It's infinite being. It just is. And notice how that feels. And slowly, I want you to come back into the room, opening your eyes, feeling that light. And again, as you come back to the room, opening your eyes, feeling that light, reference and monitor. Recall how you felt before we did the meditation and the number you assigned to the feeling you were experiencing. And now with your eyes open, do that again and notice if there's a change. So that is one way to clear the psychic energy because it's like what was that thing, that fly paper? You ever like that fly paper? Because you have like flies if you live in a tropical environment. So you put out fly paper, and sometimes when you're putting out the fly paper, your finger gets stuck. You're like, I'm going to put this out, but I get stuck. Or you're taping something and you get stuck to the tape. And so all of these energies that we're sort of interacting with other people, they can stick to us. And if we're not careful, we can take them on. The other day, I had an experience with somebody who had contacted me, and they didn't have a particularly good good image of me. And what was interesting was it was somebody who I knew as an acquaintance, and then they contacted me on Facebook. And I said, "Oh, hi, do you remember me?" Because we had a little bit of a conflict. But I was trying to be nice. Oh, and they go, "No, but you seem like a nice person." I go, "Of course I'm nice." And then I said, "Well, you sure you don't remember?" I said, "Well, this year, this thing, and all of a sudden they didn't like me anymore. And the thing was, I had done nothing to them, but they had a certain idea about me. And that was now projected, and I could feel the contraction of my own body. So I had to say, wait a minute, that's not me. Let me just clear that and let go of that. So if, let's say, I did bump into somebody, I did have a conflict with them, and it was something real, then that would be a different process of me looking at my emotions or what I had said or what I had done with them. And that's a different process of more of a psychological self-evaluation or communication. So we can get rid of things with the energy and clear things with energy. Sometimes we need to talk it through with other people. We can't just always be in our minds. So it's different for every situation. There's something in the chat here. This is like one of Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations, no body, no place, no where, no time, pure consciousness. Yes, Susan, that's been in, a lot of the non-duality or Eastern religions for some time. I think in like Christianity, for example, they would call it like, purifying yourself. You get forgiven for your sins and you kind of let go of those things. And when you let go of all that other stuff, then you're in more of a pure state of consciousness. So different people have different strategies for getting to that high point or pure point or light. So
Yes, it's very interesting. Okay, so we're getting more equipped at sensing. And again, as we said, we're all aware of it without being aware of it. Like we might not know what is agitating us. So I want to share, it was very interesting. My husband and I were chatting about something last night,
mm,
and we got onto a subject. Social media. Oh my gosh, that'll throw people for a loop all over the place, won't it? So it was a combination of things. And then, so we got onto the subject of actually, it was the word algorithm. It was just a word, algorithm. And it's become very popular lately. And simply all it is a mathematical equation. But when the conversation evolved into how those algorithms are being used, I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to just say, okay, stop. I just
mm,
like, stop. And there was great agitation there. Like, and so it was like, okay, just, and so what was I feeling? I was feeling something. I was feeling, okay, so it was like, when you're on Netflix, the next movie
mm.
comes along, that's an algorithm.
Right, right.
Our lives, and and you could say actually, algorithms are the basis of artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So that all together in combination of what we were discussing really struck a chord with me to the point where it was like, okay, and then it was like social media, and then political names came up, and it was like, okay, stop. This is the algorithm that's now running into our life right here. So it was like, and so we both kind of left the room for a moment, and then we came back and it was totally clear because we each went and had to go clear the energy.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about. But isn't that amazing? Do you find that fascinating that it was just a word and then it was the sensation of the word? And I have a feeling it was because of what we've gone through recently. We had a US election, that sort of thing. So I'm sensing it was like really picking up on frustration over algorithms, right? Social media, the way it controls us. What are your thoughts on this?
The moment we focus on something, we tune into it. So when
Yeah.
we have a collective event, so um, you mentioned about let's say the election. So I remember in 2008 when Obama was elected, and people were like, "Oh, it was the first black president, and he's in the 8 years of the other guy, and we're kind of done." And there was a great, okay, it was a great. It was like and like there was like it was like something had changed in our country. But then immediately like before Obama was like even in the office, the Republicans are like, well, this, and this, and this. You got all these, and they were just attacking him. And so that happened. And so he went, and then he was around for 8 years and whatever. So then came, and people were like pro-Trump and anti-Trump. And then I didn't think he was going to win, but when he won in the first time, that you could feel like the psychic shock of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there was some people who had not liked him, but it like went into like overdrive with him. Like he got it, he's gotten it worse, I think, anybody. And they are were talking from day one. So I was like, okay, this was interesting. And so he did his thing. Then we had the next election.
And we're
And,
back out.
and then this time he did the unusual thing where he came back again, and I was sort of tracking it. And a lot of people around the world were actually kind of relieved because whether you like him or not, he is a strong leader. Like he is who he is. I mean, there's not any fluff with him. And so people are like, well, at least we know who the next guy is going to be and whatever. And there was kind of like a high. And then all of a sudden his cabinet picks, and then people were like, they started attacking him. He hasn't even done anything yet. Like, and they're already like attacking him. And I was like, okay, I can see what's happening. And there are different factors. It's a small, a certain section of people and people projecting things. And it's been very, very interesting. Um, and then also people are like, oh, he's going to come into office and everything's going to be terrible. And I'm like, well, he was already president, like, and the world didn't come to an end. So maybe, so there's all sorts of ideas that people have about it, both positive and negative, you know. And so,
Politics.
yeah, and so it's interesting to watch, but we have this in other countries too. In South Korea, the leader just declared martial law because they had a deadlocked government. People are like, wait a minute. And all these other countries, like I'm kind of watching them. And so you
I
can
think we're
have
done
that
with
outer
politics.
event and people react. I'm sorry.
I think we're done with politics. We're seeing a trend where people are getting pushed over the edge and it's just going to say, screw it, just forget about it.
Well,
I mean,
as
we
it relates
don't
to
need.
as it relates to psychic energy, what's happening is that's actually what was supposed to happen because as we're moving into the age of Aquarius, um, the culture is going to change. And so I think there's an astrological thing with either Pluto or Neptune or one of those planets where things that were hidden are being exposed. So now people are just more savvy. They're kind of like, not just because this political leader or this media outlet or whatever is saying this, I don't buy it. It's because people are becoming more psychic and they're kind of sensing the falseness of some of the
Mhm.
statements. And they're like, yeah, we're not going to kind of go along with that. And so there's a lot of like instability, but people, people are being forced to be accountable. And also because of the internet, everything's exposed. If you do something, everybody has cameras now. So you can't
Mhm.
lie about something. I mean, it's a very strange time. So I think we're having that. And so you have to kind of sift through. Another thing that happens is there was a very funny video the other day about a guy. He was showing how social media is fake. There's a lot of stuff you see on social media is fake. So he takes a pizza and he goes, I'm going to eat this whole pizza. So he's eating it and eating it and eating it. And it looks like he ate literally the whole thing. And he goes, I didn't eat the whole thing. And then he shows it, and all he did was eat the center. But the way he edited it, it would have looked like he ate twice as much. So
Mhm.
all these images are being projected out. And when I look onto social media, I'm like, some of these things don't like this guy saying he's a millionaire, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think you're a millionaire. I think you're telling me that you're standing in front of a car and I'm a millionaire and I should buy whatever you're selling, but I don't think you're a millionaire. So, or a problem comes up and like, well, this is like the end of the world, and I'm like, no, it's not the end of the world. It's happening in your city or to you, but there are millions of other people who had a perfectly fine day. So why? So. I wanted to make sure. Now, if anybody has any questions as we're talking, I didn't want to. Any people have thoughts or questions, feel free to jump in. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we have to be very discerning. We have to say,
Yes,
who wants me to believe
absolutely.
that and why? And what am I feeling? Is this me or is it another person? So that's where the referencing and monitoring comes in, is that you have to be able to, one, be aware and attuned to like how you're feeling moment to moment, and then be able to clear it. So let's do another exercise. And I'll show another technique because I think this is what some of the people came here today was to actually how to clear some of this energy. I'll show you another technique. So before we do this one, I want everybody to think of a problem. I know this is going to be hard for you. Think of a problem, the problem you have with another person in your life, with your body, your finances. Think of something that's a problem or you would like to improve. Depends on how you frame it. So just bring something in your mind. Okay. Close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes. And breathe. And imagine you're calling back all of your energy to yourself, all of your mental energy, emotional energy, psychic energy. If you scattered it anywhere out in the universe, imagine you're reeling it in, like reeling in a fishing line, calling back all of your energy. It could be coming back to your third eye or to your heart area or just to your physical location, but just pulling back all of your energy so it's all focused and concentrated here, now, in this moment. Now, I want you to call to your higher power. This could be your higher self, your soul, your divine self, God, Goddess, infinite intelligence, whatever you deem to be the higher power within you, communing with you. Imagine you're calling it to you. Many of you can simply just go and call your soul to you. However you perceive this higher power, imagine that it's surrounding you, almost like in a protective sphere or globe or circle. You're making a conscious connection with your higher power. And this power is infinite love, it's infinite light, it's infinite healing. This power also has the ability to clear any energy. And now you are immersed in it, embraced by it, surrounded by it. Bring to mind the thing that's a challenge or something that you would like to transform in your life. And I want you to ask, why is this a problem? What is the belief about it? This is a problem because this happened. This is a problem because that happened. This person's a problem because it makes me feel this or that. And imagine that you can almost see that belief or that thought that's associated with that person or that issue or that problem, almost like written out. And imagine now that light is emanating from your higher power and it's passing through that thought form, that idea, that belief, and dissolving it. The higher power knows that this thought, this belief, this issue, this problem is nothing. It has no power. It's not real. And by offering it to the higher power within you and letting it shine its light upon it, it's dissolving it. It's letting it go. You might sense or feel in some way that this thought form, this idea, is dissolving. And notice the emotion that you had paired with that thought or belief or issue. You might have felt angry or upset or anxious or fearful. Imagine that whatever emotion was associated with that issue or problem or thought form, it too is dissolving. Almost like it's being washed away by an ocean wave of light, dissolving into nothingness. If there's any image associated with it, a person, a place, anything symbolic representing that, imagine that that image is dissolving as well. Okay. And slowly, I want you to come back to the room and open your eyes. And again, just referencing and monitoring how you felt when I first asked you to think of a problem and how you feel now. So that technique, it's used in different systems. I think some people in NLP use a version of that. I think they call it wiping or something like that. And there's different ways you can do it. But what's powerful about that technique is, and this is what I train people in, and I do myself quite often, is that sometimes when we have a problem or an issue or psychic energy, it's like gnawing on us. It grabs onto us. You're like, eh. And then we're trying to talk to it or fight it or battle it or resolve it in our mind. Well, once I do this, that will be gone. Or I'll say that to that person and then that will be gone. That's a very slow process, and that's based in time. But in every moment, you can simply call upon the higher power, basically present it with any issue, problem, or challenge or emotion, and ask it to dissolve it, to let it go. I'm going to say something that will be a little bit hard to understand, but probably the most important thing I'm going to say today. If you really understand this, you can have a type of liberation. We have emotions and thoughts and feelings and conflicts and ideas and concepts and all these other things, but we are not them. If we think about any problem that you have in your life, any thought pattern, any issue, whatever, and you've thought of it like a piece of clothing. This doubt is a hat. This fear is a pair of pants. And you thought about clothing. And you went to your closet and said, well, here's all my clothing. Okay, you have clothes, but you're not clothes. You have clothes that you wear, but you're not the clothes. And you can get new clothes. And so that's the concept here, is that you don't have to take on all of those things. The real reality is that you really are pure light. You're temporarily in a body, you're temporarily having thoughts and emotions and feelings, whatever. When you leave this body, you'll look back and say, oh, I was none of those things ever. It was just an experimentation. I put on those clothes for that time. I thought I was Egan. I thought I lived in 2024. I thought I drove this kind of car and had this relationship and had these desires and ambitions and goals and issues and traumas and those things. As soon as you leave the body, you realize I wasn't those things whatsoever. So when sometimes you have emotions that come up or certain things go on, you can simply say, I'm not my emotions, thoughts, or feelings. Now, we don't want to disassociate from all of our feelings. If you have a painful experience, you've experienced a trauma, telling yourself that you don't have any trauma isn't going to help you, because you have to have a natural healing process to let go of certain emotions. Some things you can clear very quickly. Other things you have to sit and you've got to process it a little bit. It's different every time. With a lot of the psychic energies that are kind of streaming around and floating around, the psychic weather, a lot of those can just be dissipated by some of the techniques we did today. Different other challenges in your life, or soul issues or soul patterns or things that you're working through, those have to be nuanced. Those have to be addressed. When I have clients, a lot of times I'll go into past life stuff, because they're running a pattern in this life that relates to another life. And unless I bring that up to conscious awareness and talk about what's going on with them, they're not going to clear it by saying, I don't have this anxiety. They're just not going to do it. They're going to have to understand why they have that anxiety, what's the source, and then they can heal it from that avenue. So when we talk about clearing psychic energy, it can be from other lifetimes, it can be from other people. It's a combination of things. And so we try to gain as many tools. Here's another one that we'll all do. Everybody close their eyes for a second. And I just want you to mentally repeat this phrase to yourself. I now release all fears to the light. I now release all fears to the light. I now accept love in its place. I now accept love in its place. And open your eyes. So sometimes we can just say, if we're feeling a fear, we can say, I now release all fears to the light. I now accept love in its place. And that can wipe away the energy in a moment. So there's many little tricks that you can apply. And I've learned over many, many years, I'm working with thousands and thousands of people. Every person's different. I have to go in and kind of say, well, where's this person at? What do they want? Some people don't want to let go of fearful emotions because that's their identity. Their whole life is built upon in fear. So if I start taking their emotions, they don't know who they are. That's worse than having the fear. Okay.
Very good. That is a really good protocol because we tend to just get so caught up into it that we can really shift it just by saying, I choose. So when we're aware of the feeling, we can say, I choose not to feel this way anymore. But it's not just feeling that way anymore, it's allowing the higher self, the higher illumined realms, source frequencies to come in and replace those feelings. So we're getting out the feeling and we're replacing it with love. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Really helpful. I want to open this up to see if any in our Zoom audience would like to ask a question. Or would you like to share your experiences of anything that came up in these practices that Egan shared with us? If you would like some feedback on what you experienced, now would be a beautiful time to do that. Just raise your hand and we'll unmute you. And we would love to hear that, or you can share in the chat. So as we're waiting for hands, I see a note coming in on chat. Go ahead and raise your hand, Zoom audience. You've got a beautiful teacher here willing to work with you. Susan says, I do pull in others' energies, and I have to constantly remind myself to pull in my field and place a protective shield around me. What are your thoughts on
I'm
that?
gonna recommend something else, Susan, because the problem with shielding and bubbles is that it also segments you off. So I would suggest the next time that that happens with you, you practice being transparent. Pretend that you're a window and that the energies that you're picking up from other people are passing through the window like light passes through. So in other words, you're transparent. It's very, or another visual is, so let's say you're standing on the ground and you can feel energies coming at you from all around you. You imagine that you're just lifted up 20 feet or into a higher dimension. And therefore, all the energies on the earth plane can't get to you because you're not there anymore. You've projected your consciousness to a higher plane. And so just like a car would be elevated on a bridge or you're elevated in an elevator, again, you're here. And if you lift yourself to a higher consciousness or higher plane, those energies can't find you. There are all sorts of things. I also say I only let in friendly energies. Yeah, there's different things. You have to find what works for you. What also helps is to think of a feeling you want to feel. So, for example,
Mm.
let's say you were agitated, you want to feel peace. So, I'm at peace. I feel profoundly peaceful. I'm one with all peace. I'm one with infinite peace. I'm one with all infinitely peaceful beings. I live in a universe of infinite peace. Every moment I'm at peace. I ask for the consciousness of sustained peace. So that's another little trick that I use because the moment you notice, with just the moment we think of peace, you're not thinking of the other thing. And so sometimes what you'll feel a little bit, Susan, is a little bit of a tug of war. So let's say I get up and I feel like something stresses me. I feel like a 7, or I'm like, I don't feel this. I don't want to feel this way. So now if I start doing some of the exercise, I might say, oh, I was at a 7 a few minutes ago. Now I'm at a 5. Now I'm at a 3. And maybe an hour later, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm like, oh, this person, this issue, this problem isn't even on my mind anymore. So we can't always like turn it on and turn it off, but we can work with it to manage it. So we don't want to be a perfectionist about it. We just want to say, okay, what am I feeling? Okay, I got it down a little bit. Okay, that's good. A little bit, The reason people take a lot of these medications for anxiety is because they don't want to feel anything. The problem is they become numb. They get all numbed out. So we don't want to do that. We just want to say, okay, I'm feeling this energy. Let me see if I can play with it a little bit, work with it a little bit, transform it a little bit at a time. And there's all sorts of tricks. So whatever you find that works for you, that's perfect.
Sometimes just leaving the room.
Or sometimes just leaving the room.
Just leaving the room, taking a breath, going for a walk. All right, not to make fun of any of this, but just to lighten it up a bit because like I shared that experience, just that conversation that went south really fast. It was just like an explosion. Then we both left the room and came back and we were totally fine. And it was like, wow, look at that energy. So it was amazing that that happened for us to see the charge. That's the psychic charge. Now, this brings up another good question. On our Zoom audience, we have Mr. Lindsay who asks, are there psychic attacks? Maybe you want to talk about psychic attacks. We've heard that come up. People will say, I'm under psychic attack. In your knowledge and wisdom, what is a psychic attack and how do we protect ourselves from it?
There's usually two varieties. Either somebody is, purposely employing some type of psychic energy to attack you, or it's unconscious. So for example, many years ago, I got on the wrong side of a witch. And I was sitting in my apartment, and all of a sudden my computer went wacky and things started happening. And my girlfriend at the time, who was also a pagan and a witch, she says, "Oh, you're being psychically attacked." And she told me something to do. It was creating mirrors around that were pointing outward. If you ever study feng shui, they'll say, if you don't want to take on the energy of the people, homes around you, put mirrors that are facing outward so it reflects back to them. So I did that and that changed. So she was purposely attacking me. Another type of psychic attack is when somebody's thinking something negative about you or talking bad about you. You can feel like somebody's saying something negative about you or, whatever. So that comes up. And so when that occurs, transmitting love to those people or focusing yourself something on something positive is the way to go, because that way that neutralizes it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that mirror thing. I've done that in the past, actually. All right. So sensing a psychic attack, it's just something that's not sitting with us where we could be agitated or something. Okay. All right. Well, very powerful. The power of love is always here. The power of love, sending love. Even if we are feeling in our dream space, if we're seeing something or a being or negative energy entity, something like that, I've heard that as well. Send love and always send love. Don't run from it. It's
If
like
you ever
running.
feel like somebody, like an entity or something is attacking you, just say, "I love and accept you for who you are."
I love it.
Because it's not being fearful. You're not attacking it. You're not running away from it. You're saying, "I love it." You take a neutral stance. The problem with negative psychic energy is that we become enmeshed with it. We begin to battle it. And the more
Mhm.
you battle something, the more energy you give to it. There was an old episode of Star Trek where Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock got stuck in this beam of light, and they're like, "I can't get out." And so Spock goes, "Don't struggle with it, Captain." And then, because the psychic beam was feeding off of their energy. So as soon as they
Ah,
just like were start relaxed, the psychic beam stopped, and they were free from the trap. So sometimes we begin to like, things are like attacking us and get in our mind and whatever, and you start like talking to them or reasoning with them and say, "Hey, don't hurt me," or you get in this whole drama with them. But other times, if you just can just, "I love and accept you for who you are. I'm one with God," or you do a prayer, something, anything, call light to yourself. You just shift your consciousness a little bit, and then those things can't get to you. Negative energies or psychic attacks can only get to you if you allow them to, if you allow them to latch on.
Mhm.
But you can always say, well, I just don't feel like, yeah, and we've all had that, like when you're having a great day and somebody says something insulting to you and you're like, I'm having such a great day. I don't care, you know. Another day, it's like, you're not having a good day. And somebody says something very minor, like, it's because of your state of your mind. So it's not always, don't give more power to those things than they're really, than they really have, because it only has the power that you give it, really.
The importance of really being aware and discerning with our energy. Absolutely. So this is really valuable and very helpful, very beneficial, actually. Thank you for these tools and these tips.
Okay.
And I love it. Now, people want to work with you and you do personal sessions.
Mm.
So you do personal sessions. Now, in personal sessions, are you reading a person's energy, or is it more of like they can ask you questions and you are giving them guidance? You
It's
have a
really
full repertoire of advice. So what happens?
It's really all the above. Usually
Hmm.
when I start a session with somebody, they just ask a question or focus on a life area, and then we just sort of go into it. Sometimes I'll pick up their past lives, and I'll say, well, this seems to be something similar. If it's a relationship issue, I can tune to that person and say, well, this is what they're feeling. Sometimes we have to do other types of meditation to clear that energy. There's different techniques with that. Um, every session is different. Even with some of my clients have been working with me for many, many years, who I sort of mentor, it depends on what comes up for them. And then at different stages of your spiritual growth, something that you really weren't aware of becomes kind of important. So I kind of work with different ranges. I work with a lot of advanced people, and I've worked with people who are newer to spirituality. I can see their aura. I can show them techniques. So basically what happens is that whatever they need to get from the session is what they'll get, what they need to get to kind of move forward. It's usually some type of healing or transformation or shift. Or tool.
So who are the types of people that come to you? Do they like problems? Is it what are the problems that people have? I
Sometimes
would
it's a health issue because
relationship.
I work with like psychosomatic healing. I had a client from, I think the last talk I talked about healing, and she came to me afterwards. And so I worked with her. Other people have relationship issues.
Yeah.
Some people are trying to get to the next level of spiritual growth, but their belief system isn't quite there. So although I use a psychic ability, I use other standard coaching things, reframing situations, clearing energy, um, beliefs and understanding your emotions, because every person's sort of a complex combination of things, and also patterns. People have patterns that they're playing out over and over again, and I'm like, okay, you've got this pattern, and here we are again, and then I can bring up another lifetime with it and say, okay, what can we do differently here? So that's where the coaching aspect comes in. It doesn't always have to be something cosmic, but using all those tools to make the person more aware and to realize that they have choices. And then we got a comment from here. Oh, Susan, thank you, Lauren. I feel much calmer now. Okay, well, great, great. You
That's
do
really
that.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, see how we can soothe ourselves. That's the key. We soothe ourselves with energy. Many times in our world, people will run to addictions, right? Shopping or food or drinks or drugs, things like that, that take the mind away from it, out of it. But this is the most powerful is our own ability to connect with the light source within us and radiate that. That's really powerful.
I would suggest, I just want to suggest to all the people out there, a couple of tips. Try to get off as much social media as you can, like to reduce it. Get out
Yeah.
in nature. Be with people that you really enjoy. I mean, some of the basic stuff you kind of already know, but we have to remind each other. You could have all these psychic abilities, but if you're sitting there looking at the internet all day and you're alone or around people who don't love you, you're not gonna feel that good. You know, so the best kind of psychic self-care is simply being kind to yourself and doing good things for yourself.
I love it. All right. You can find Egan's special offer in our chat box here on Zoom. in the YouTube channel where you're watching this. It's in the description box, and it's also on the page that got you to today's program. So check
Hmm.
it out. One thing, besides Egan's personal sessions, he has been teaching mastery empowerment courses on New Earth One Network, and you have a library of courses that are available. So I want to direct people to that page as well, your special offer page, because you have a bundle of all those courses, which that's a great value. So if someone wants everything that you've taught, that's there, that's available. But they can also go and purchase any of those items individually. And that's really helpful as well. And so people can scroll down and look at those. You've done such a wide spectrum of courses. Do you want to mention anything that might stand out on those?
I mean, there's one about past lives, there's one about future lives, alternate realities. I did one about healing, healing your body. I did one about relationships, finding your soulmate. I did like a three-part course about clearing energy. So some of the stuff that we did today, I did that one, and that one is really good. I've done a couple of manifestation ones, which have been very beneficial. So it's pretty varied, but I think I have like a couple of like 3 hour ones. I did one for star seeds. That's another one. So
Yeah.
they'll all be kind of like me talking a little bit and then doing processes, and so it's a combination of things. It's a little bit of talking, but it's more experiential. So that's I found the best way to integrate the knowledge. But yeah, I mean, I think any kind of problem that you would have, you probably would find a course that I've done that could probably help you in some way. So.
Beautiful. Thank you for your teachings and for sharing this wisdom with all of us. We are lifted, we're feeling better, and
Mm.
now we are equipped with some really helpful tools. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Egan, as we say goodbye, I want to give you a moment for final thoughts.
I would just say that, people are a little bit anxious right now towards the end of the year. There was an old quote, I think it was from Charles Dickens, from one of his books. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, you know. So many things are changing on the planet right now. Just make it your goal to just find your own inner happiness as much as possible, because you will see things in the outer world that are going to upset you. But this is part of the natural change that our planet is going and evolving. We're not going to have, a total destruction of our society, and we're not going to have utopia tomorrow, but things will continue to get better bit by bit by bit. So try to hold on to that focus that things are progressing. There's just a lot of ups and downs, and it's a messy process, but things are moving forward in their own perfect way and unfolding in a type of perfection, despite how it appears to be.
Thank you. Beautiful wisdom and beautiful words.
Mm,
This is again why we always say, hold your vision of New Earth. We all know why we
mm,
came at this time. Hold that vision, and we will be guided
mm.
by our higher faculties, by our higher senses on the next steps to take because we hold that New Earth vision. So thank you, thank you, thank you, Egan. And thank you, everyone, for watching and for sharing your light. This light that you have now, this vibration that you have, absolutely radiates out to our planet. And that is so powerful. Thank you, everyone, for your love and light. And Egan, thank you too for this wisdom shared today.
See you in
Namaste.
2025.
Wow. Okay. Bye, everyone. Namaste. Bye. Thank you for listening to this quantum conversation, and thank you for dancing with us to the cosmic heart. As we raise our own vibration, we raise the vibration of the planet. This show is dedicated to you and all awakening hearts, as we are here to shine our bright light and amplify our love. I'm Loren Gailey, and from my sacred heart to yours, I honor your magnificent love and light. This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in Unity Consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.